Another weekend in Europe. Let's review what happened this weekend in the major leagues: Spain, Germany, France, Italy, and around the world. Soccer on Falso 9, let's begin. Alright, let's get started, because the truth is that the world of soccer has brought a lot of news in the different leagues. The Spanish Super Cup and Football Association Cup were played, Serie A is ongoing, and it's great. And at this point, we have to say, let's start with the Football Association Cup. Some results came in this weekend. Arsenal won 4-1. They ended up beating Portsmouth 4-1, qualifying for the next round. Remember that this is the round of 32, the round of 32. There's still a lot left to play in the Football Association Cup, so it keeps going because there were also some good matches. Aston Villa defeated Tottenham 2-1 in a great match. Unai Emery's team also qualified, as we've been highlighting. A great campaign, a great season they're having. The Villains team, Chelsea also won 5-1. With the debut of Ruiseñor, the coach who came from Racing de Estrasburgo, it was a great debut. 5-1, a thrashing of Charlton, 5-1. So is that how they qualify? And besides this thrashing that Manchester City gave, 10-1, they also end up qualifying. And as you can see there on the screen, it's also the debut of Semenyo. We also need to discuss two crushing defeats. One of them was Crystal Palace, who lost 2-1 against Macclesfield 2-1. They lost to a 4th division team. Crystal Palace was having a great season. Football Association Cup champion last season. This time they're out in the round of 32 against this modest 4th division team. Also, we're talking about a great match. 3-3, Newcastle ended up winning on penalties against Bournemouth. It was an exciting match, back and forth with goals, 3-3, and in the penalty shootout, the Magpies ended up winning. And to wrap up in England, let's talk about Manchester United. Manchester United, which, by the way, everyone talks about as this great sleeping giant that has struggled. We all know that Ruben Amorim left last week, but this is a real blow in my opinion. Not only without downplaying Brighton's work, because Fabian Hassler is doing a very good job with Brighton, the German who has already been with the Seagulls for several seasons. Does this end up being the decisive blow of authority against Manchester United that they needed? Or was this victory against Brighton, who ended up losing, going to help them? And they're still struggling a lot to create play, win matches, and maintain that consistency of good performances. And in the end, there's a lot of talk in England about what Manchester United is doing. Let's take a quick flight to Italy because a lot of things are happening there. You all can already see what it was. This was a great match. It was a great game between Inter and Napoli, 2-2. It seemed like Inter was going to win it, but near the end, almost at the very end, Antonio Conte's team managed to tie it, and Antonio Conte was also sent off. The goal was scored in the 81st minute. Scott McTominay, who is enjoying a strong season, has also had several good seasons with Napoli. Inter needed to win to consolidate their lead, but they couldn't win. 2-2 in a match where both teams needed a win, it ended in a draw. It's better for Napoli since they don't fall behind Inter, who are at the top with 43 points. Milan was the one who needed to win, playing against Fiorentina. We'll talk about them in a moment. But they couldn't win. They just couldn't win. Milan also ended up drawing at the end of the match against a tough and complicated Fiorentina. Christopher Nkunku is the one who, near the end, scores the dramatic equalizer that lets Milan tie the match, so that Inter doesn't pull even further ahead. Still, the Rossoneri team remains 3 points behind. We also have to talk finally about Roma. Roma, who beat Real El de Sassuolo 2-0 and are slowly getting closer. They also have 39 points, the same as Napoli, but Napoli is ahead due to goal difference. Second is Milan with 40 points and Inter is first with 43. It's worth mentioning that Juventus plays today, so at the moment I'm recording this video, they haven't played yet. Juve, who could get closer and also reach 39 points, has played 20 matches. Roma and Napoli. Milan and Inter will have 19 matches played, one less because they played the Italian Super Cup, just like Bologna. So is that how things are in Italy? And let's take a quick stroll through the Bundesliga, which has already resumed. The Bundesliga that has resumed. With this match, Frankfurt also draws 3-3 against Borussia Dortmund. It's been really tough for Dortmund. Maintaining that consistency in the Bundesliga hasn't happened. They haven't put together good performances in the last few rounds of the Bundesliga. Let's also talk about this. Yes, ma'am, this crushing defeat against Stuttgart. We have to mention that Stuttgart is having a very good season. They beat none other than Bayer Leverkusen 4-1, 4-1. They end up winning, asserting themselves, and getting closer to the Champions League spots. And also, let's talk about this Wiesen Company team, 8-1, 8-1. And the match was really great. I have to say, it seemed like Wolfsburgo was going to strike because they started off winning. By the way, it's like Bayern Munich woke up and then goal after goal after goal, they went all out. 2 assists from Lucho Diaz, and he also scored a goal, Luchito Diaz, 8-1. So let's analyze the standings. The standings are like this. Bayern Munich is first with 44 way ahead of Borussia Dortmund, who have 33 points. Third is Leipzig, who couldn't play because of the snowstorm, so they remain third with 29 points. Fourth is Leverkusen, who lost 29 points. Fifth is Stuttgart, who is also getting closer with 29 points. And sixth, closing out the European competition spots, is Hoffenheim with 27 points. Let's leave the topic of the leagues here for now because now we have to talk about Spain. We're heading to Arabia because that's where the final of the Spanish Super Cup was played. Between Barcelona and Real Madrid, with a final score of 3-2, 3-2, Football Club Barcelona ended up winning. Here's the photo Football Club Barcelona shared on their social media accounts. Already declared Spanish Super Cup champion under the guidance of Hansi Flick. I want to do a brief analysis of how the match went because Real Madrid, although they struggled to start the first half, they struggled throughout the whole first half because there was a dominant performance by Barcelona towards the end of the first half. Tried to be a little more, the dominance also happened because of the very conservative approach that Xabi Alonso took, and there's also some news about him that I'll share at the end. But above all, Real Madrid with Vinicius, with Gonzalo, with Rodrigo, who played a great match, especially Rodrigo, he deserves to be highlighted, but Vinicius as well. I have to say that when he was substituted, I don't know why he was taken off, especially since he was playing a really good match and he was booed when he left. And I think it's worth mentioning that when a player proves he's up to the task, like Vinicius did against Barcelona in a final where the pressure was on, he stepped up. He scored one of his best goals, Vinicius Jr. In what I've seen from Real Madrid, the fans can't boo Vinicius Jr., and it's also worth noting that Gonzalo keeps scoring goals. Mbappe came on in the last 15 minutes of the match, but he's still not at his best. He still can't offer what Mbappe usually does, and that's why he didn't contribute much to the result. In addition, Alvaro Carreras wasted one of the clearest chances he had near the end of the match, in the 90th minute, plus the added time chance in front of John Garcia, and the goalkeeper John Garcia did very well. Let's also talk about Xabi Alonso. It was just announced that Xabi Alonso and Real Madrid have reached an agreement to terminate the contract of the Spanish coach. So he won't continue after losing the title against Football Club Barcelona, and before saying who will replace him, Mr. Chip shares a fact here. Take a look. Xabi Alonso's matches were 34, 24 wins, 4 draws against Alguilal, Rayo Vallecano, Elche, and Girona, and 6 losses against Paris Saint-Germain, Liverpool, Atletico, Celta, Manchester City, and Barcelona. Hansi Flick has the same number of matches, 24 matches, 4 draws, 24 wins. Sorry, 34 matches for Hansi Flick, 24 wins, 4 draws against Celta, Betis, Getafe, and Atalanta, and 6 losses. The same as Xavi Alonso, Monaco, Osasuna, Real Sociedad, Las Palmas, Leganés, and Atletico. So this leaves a lot to be seen. Maybe he didn't fully convince. We also need to consider how the two coaches differ, especially in their relationships with their players. Xavi Alonso doesn't have a great relationship with his players, while Hansi Flick gets along better with his staff. So, is this guy going to replace him then? Alvaro Arbeloa, is he going to be the interim coach? I'm not sure if it'll last the season or if they'll bring in someone else, but I doubt it. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. What do you think about Xavi Alonso's farewell from Real Madrid? What do you think about this title from Barcelona, which they also achieved very well? They played very well, and we have to highlight Rafinha's performance and the gesture the whole team had with Ronald Araujo making him captain. He is among the captains who lifted the Super Cup after his mental health issues. Very well. I think the European weekend has been great. The series is really exciting. English football is also fantastic. And of course, you can participate. Comment there. What do you think? What did you think about Barcelona winning the Spanish Super Cup? The dismissal of Javi Alonso? Do you think Arbeloa will do well? What do you think? What do you think? Tell me. We'll read your comments there. And obviously, we'll see each other next time very, very soon. God bless you. Bye bye.